You know, the air in the National Football League, it is incredibly thin at the very top. And for a select few, it's not just thin, it is literally suffocating. Welcome to NFL Nexus, your ultimate explainer for the gridiron's most intense, high-stakes realities. I am so absolutely thrilled you're here with us today. Look, we are tearing down the locker room walls to examine the raw, totally unspoken anatomy of pressure. But hey, before we uncover these dramatic shifts that are literally altering the futures of the league's brightest stars right now, I need you to do something for me. To survive the relentless NFL news cycle, hit that subscribe button for NFL Nexus right now. Go ahead and like this explainer, comment down below with your thoughts, and hey, support the channel by becoming a member. We bring you the unvarnished truth of the NFL, and your support is exactly what keeps this Nexus alive and thriving. All right, let's dive into a situation where the stakes are, quite literally, life-alter. So, is a franchise's entire future really riding on a single season? Well, for the Houston Texans and their franchise quarterback CJ Stroud, the answer is just a resounding, echoing yes. Now, Stroud is coming off a pretty rocky year 3, and look, we all remember the agonizing, meticulous details of those playoff mishaps, right? You had that relentless, suffocating edge rush from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, they were collapsing the pocket in under 2 seconds flat. No one can survive that. And then the confusing, constantly shifting pre-snap coverages thrown at him by the New England Patriots. That directly forced those crucial, devastating interceptions. Actually, scratch that. They weren't just losses. They were these visceral, jarring reminders of exactly how quickly a championship window can stutter and stall out. Stroud was the absolute golden boy, but those specific postseason stumbles, they placed this immense, heavy burden squarely on his shoulders. The chatter started, you know how it is, the doubts just crept right in. Because when you're the face of an organization, you don't just carry a playbook around. You're carrying the hopes of an entire city, the actual jobs of your coaching staff, and the entire legacy of the franchise. And right now, that weight is absolute. He really has no excuse not to shine through for a turnaround year 4. Just let the sheer weight of that statement settle over you for a second. Okay, this isn't some friendly suggestion from the front office. This is a mandate. You see, the ruthless nature of the NFL, it offers absolutely no apologies and definitely no grace periods. The front office looked at this roster, they looked at the brutal struggles of last season, and they made a highly calculated, deliberate decision to remove literally every single variable of blame. Because think about it, when a team builds a massive fortress around their quarterback, the whole narrative shifts, right? It goes from, can he survive, to, wait, why hasn't he conquered? Stroud is staring down a year 4 where the shield of being this developing young player, it's just completely gone. The expectations are totally crystallized now. It is, quite simply, championship contention or total failure. And the stakes here? They aren't just about legacy. We are talking about monumental generational wealth, $60 million annually. Let that number sink in. Stroud is playing for a potential contract extension that won't just reward him. It is going to completely reset the entire quarterback market, a real game changer. And that kind of astronomical figure, it eats into a massive percentage of the team's salary cap, which obviously dictates every single roster move the franchise can even afford to make for the next half-decade. That number is this immense financial gravity, pulling at every single throw he's going to make this season. And you know what? Stroud knows this. He feels the absolute enormity of this impending negotiation. So how exactly has he responded? By completely, and I mean completely, transforming his physique in the first few months of the offseason. He has literally weaponized his motivation. Teammates are already making some very notable comments about the raw, undeniable focus he is bringing to the facility every single day. He isn't just preparing for another season. He is preparing for the defining financial and professional campaign of his entire life. Literally everything he does right now is a $60 million down payment. But to actually survive this kind of pressure, the strategy had to evolve. Let's look at the tape. In 2025, Houston's survival tactics were born out of pure desperation. It was a completely one-dimensional, pass-heavy scheme. Stroud was constantly forced to play hero ball. I mean, just imagine dropping back on 2nd and long or 3rd and long, knowing that the entire stadium, and especially the opposing defensive line with their ears pinned back, knows exactly what you have to do. It was a total recipe for brutal physical exhaustion. Now contrast that with the 2026 strategy, which completely relies on a balanced offensive attack. The Texans aggressively went out and addressed their glaring needs, specifically focusing on some major offensive line upgrades with multiple new additions this summer. And guys, this isn't just about blocking better, it is a fundamental psychological shift. By balancing out the scheme, Stroud is finally relieved from the terrifying, exhausting burden of having to basically save the world on every single snap. The offense completely transforms from a desperate survival tactic into a dictated, controlled assault. Now, to truly understand how this assault actually works on the field, we really have to scrutinize the reinforcements. The front office didn't just add random bodies, they added specific, highly tactical weapons for the brutal trench warfare of the NFL. First up, veteran running back David Montgomery. Montgomery brings this exact, punishing physical presence that Houston severely lacked last year. He is the hammer that is going to grind down defensive fronts on those crucial early downs. But the upgrades don't stop there. Look closely at the specific tactical capabilities of tight ends Foster Moreau and Marlon Klein. Both of these guys possess a brutal, incredibly aggressive blocking ability right at the point of attack. And in the modern NFL, having a blocking tight end changes a defensive end's entire approach to the game. It's all about hand placement, it's about leverage and setting the edge so a defender cannot just crash the pocket and blow up the play. So, by reinforcing the edges with Moreau and Klein, the Texans have ensured that Montgomery actually has the running lanes required to keep Stroud out of those treacherous third and long situations. We are talking about roster construction operating with absolute microscopic precision here. And the ultimate goal of these trench reinforcements is actually pretty simple, yet utterly devastating. Play action. So, play action is a passing concept designed to mimic a running play. But here is the cold, hard reality of the league. Play action is completely useless if the defense does not fear your ground game, period. In 2025, no one feared the Texans on the ground. They just didn't. But in 2026, with Montgomery pounding the rock behind that upgraded line and brutal blocking from Moreau and Klein, the defense absolutely must respect the run. And the magic happens when those linebackers bite on the fake, even for just a fraction of a second, the entire middle of the field just tears wide open. Stroud is a quarterback who already really excels in these specific looks. So unlocking his play-action versatility, it takes this offensive scheme from completely predictable to utterly terrifyingly lethal. The trap is officially set. But man, in the NFL, the script can flip in the absolute blink of an eye. Everything changed in a matter of seconds. A sudden, sharp pain, a devastating diagnosis. Just as this massive offensive fortress was being built, a massive crisis struck the defense. Veteran linebacker E.J. Speed suffered a torn quadriceps during some routine offseason training. Just a violent pop, and boom, he's sidelined, requiring immediate surgery and months of grueling, agonizing rehabilitation before the real battles even begin. This is just the cruel reality of the league, isn't it? You can plan every single dollar, you can draft for every position perfectly, but you cannot predict the catastrophic snap of a muscle in the quiet days of spring. And the timing makes it sting so much more. Speed was freshly signed to a 2-year deal. He was meant to be the rotational anchor, the vital linebacker 3. But now there's a gaping, dangerous void right in the middle of the Texans' defense. This single injury creates a truly terrifying ripple effect across the entire defense. Let's look at the numbers, because the data from 2025 paints a pretty grim picture of pure exhaustion. Azeez Al-Shaair was on the field for an astonishing 94% of defensive snaps. 94%. And Henry To'oTo'o took 79%. In the Texans' primary 42-5 defensive scheme, these two men are the absolute pillars. They are the foundation. They are already carrying a superhuman workload, just absorbing the brutal physical toll of colliding with 300-pound linemen and explosive running backs for 17 grueling weeks. That kind of physiological breakdown is just completely unsustainable. With E.J. Speed gone, there's literally no veteran safety net left. The burden on Al-Shaair and To'oTo'o becomes even heavier and, frankly, a lot more dangerous. And consider this deeply. To'oTo'o is entering a high-stakes contract year himself. Every extra snap he plays without relief is a massive risk to his body, his future, and his own financial security. Let me tell you, the tension in that linebacker room right now, it is palpable. So this void forces the spotlight onto the absolute next men up. We're talking about the young depth waiting in the wings, who are now staring down a massive opportunity born out of another man's misfortune. First, you have drafted rookies like Wade Woodaz and Aiden Fisher, who are being thrust immediately into the fire. The big question is, can they actually handle the complex, split-second reads of a 4-2-5 scheme in the chaotic, absolute heat of an NFL Sunday? Then there's Marte Mapu, a former New England Patriot who was brought in to add versatility, now suddenly facing a potential trial by fire of his own. And finally, Jamal Hill, last year's Day 3 pick, who was just fighting tooth and nail to prove he belongs in this league. The tension revolves entirely around exactly who is going to step into the massive void left by E.J. Speed. The Texans simply cannot afford to scavenge the league for free agent veterans right now. They have to look inwards. One of these young men is going to have their entire career defined by exactly how they respond to this sudden, unexpected call to the front lines. All right, so we've talked a lot about the physical toll, right? The torn muscles, the grueling snap counts, the absolute trench warfare. But there is a silent opponent out there that destroys careers far, far faster than any defensive end ever could. And that is the psychological weight of the league. When we analyze players like CJ Stroud or these young linebackers stepping up, we absolutely must recognize the immense unspoken off-field burden they constantly carry. The NFL is a massive machine. It demands perfection not just between the hashes on Sunday, but in front of the flashing cameras, deep in the locker room, and in the relentless, unforgiving court of public opinion. It is a psychological pressure cooker that can and will crack even the most gifted athletes. Just listen to the jarring reality from Las Vegas Raiders rookie quarterback Fernando Mendoza. He said, and I quote, "I'd rather be practicing right now, and I was really upset about actually having to miss practice for this." Wow. Mendoza is experiencing the violent, jarring shock of the NFL system firsthand. Coming straight from college sports, this kid just wants to play football. He openly despises the mandatory media obligations. He absolutely hates the press rounds. He just wants to be out on the grass. But the reality is, the NFL is a global entertainment monolith. Thankfully for Mendoza, the Raiders do have veteran quarterback Kirk Cousins on the roster, who's actively trying to mentor him through this off-field chaos. Cousins is teaching him how to navigate the pay, benefits, the vital connections, and just the sheer deafening noise of it all. But Mendoza's raw frustration, it perfectly highlights a critical, often ignored barrier to survival in this league. The contrast between these two young quarterbacks is just incredibly stark. On one side, you have Mendoza, right, fighting the system, armed with this raw rookie aversion to the microphones, just desperately wishing it was all about the grass and the playbook. And on the other side, you have CJ Stroud, who has entirely graduated from that level of frustration. Stroud is currently navigating massive, multi-million-dollar media scrutiny. Every single throw is analyzed, his body language is dissected by pundits, and his quotes are overly scrutinized on every network. But the overarching theme here, it's survival. To truly endure in the National Football League, you absolutely must master the relentless, glaring media spotlight just as much as you master the X's and O's of the playbook. You cannot secure that massive $60 million contract without standing confidently at the podium and facing the fire. Stroud has learned to effectively wield the spotlight. Mendoza? Well, Mendoza's just barely learning that it even exists. So what does this all mean? All of this brings us right back to Houston, and the ultimate lingering question hanging over this entire explainer today. Will this be the year the ceiling finally shatters? Can CJ Stroud actually overcome that suffocating financial pressure weighing on his shoulders? Can he effectively utilize these perfectly constructed reinforcements of Montgomery, Moreau, and Klein to totally dominate defenses? And what about this defense? Can they hold the line while heavily burdened by the sudden, tragic loss of EJ Speed, relying entirely on exhausted pillars and untested rookies? Well, the pieces are theoretically in place to push the Houston Texans to a true Super Bowl ceiling. But, as we all know, potential is an incredibly dangerous word in the NFL. Every single player, every coach, and every fan knows exactly what is at stake here. The table is absolutely set. And the excuses? They are entirely gone. Because in this league, the window doesn't just stay open. It slams shut. It is violent, it is entirely abrupt, and it leaves absolutely no room for regret. The pieces are all on the board right now. But if the foundation cracks under the immense weight of $60 million, you have to wonder, will this franchise ever truly recover? Thank you so much for diving into this incredibly deep analysis with me today. If you felt that tension and you appreciate the granular details we explored in this explainer, you absolutely must subscribe to NFL Nexus right now. Go ahead and like this explainer, drop a comment below letting me know if you really think Stroud is going to secure that bag, and strongly consider becoming a channel member to support more of these intensive deep dives. Until next time, keep your eyes on the Nexus.